everyone, my name is Ina Schwartzman. I am a master of handmade collection dolls. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to prepare a master model of a doll for the removal of silicone molds and further printing. This is my new toy and friend Foxy. She's so handy that I just don't want to let go of her. I'll show you the dolls, the main requirements, the materials, and tell you more about them. But first, let's go over what I wanted to share. To create a beautiful, high-quality, expensive polyurethane doll, it's crucial to properly prepare the master model. You need to put in significant work at the onset. Yes, it's not an easy task, but if you do it well once, you will have a high-quality product in the future. So what exactly is a master model? A master model is a doll that you create either by hand or using a three-dimensional printer. It's high quality, beautifully polished and primed. What should you pay attention to? To make silicone molds, the doll can be a handmade master model made of self-hardening materials such as paper glue, artist's mold, lado, baking plastic, or even three-dimensional printed. These are typically made of resin. Regardless of the material used for the master model, it has to be exceptionally well polished and primed. To take silicone molds, the master model cannot be composed of plasticine. This applies to various types of plasticine. The master model can be made of plasticine only for taking gypsum molds, not silicone molds. Though the master model can be made of any material. There are both inexpensive acrylic primers and higher cost primers for modelers. Cheap acrylic primer can be found in any construction store. It's reasonably priced. 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 Here's what you need to do. Several layers of primer and polishing are required. That's because the surface from which the mold is taken should be flawless. Silicone molds will replicate any deviation, any speck of dust, any indentation. These will be present on your final doll. So the doll you send to the casting workshop will be returned to you with the same surface and parts. The doll you deliver to the casting workshop has to be perfect. So we've covered that. The second type of primer is the type that modelers use for smaller models. It's a wonderful primer, but it's quite thin. Priming takes a lot of time if you're using this. I usually use both types of primers. So firstly, I apply a coat of the cheaper acrylic primer. It tends to blur details a bit. Therefore, depending on the master model itself, you need to adjust. If there are substantial flaws like stripes or dents, it's better to apply a heavy-duty primer first, then finish with a pricier modeler's primer. I'll show you the models later. And I'll also show you the primer. The key point about the primer is that it should be perfect. The walls of your master model shouldn't be thin. How do you create the holes? Where will these holes originate from? For an articulated doll, the positioning of the holes is very important. If the holes on the master model are misaligned, your final doll will also have misaligned holes. This can result in strange movements or the doll can become warped. You should bend your leg or hand where you don't need to budge. Every part of this should be precise. Your master model should be pre-assembled and checked before use, observing how it moves, how the parts connect, and the surface it occupies. The walls of it shouldn't be thin, they must not be less than 3 to 4 millimeters thick. If you have a master model, the wall shouldn't be transparent if it is 1 millimeter thick. It is so thin and transparent. When a master model removes the molds, he uses mold on both the exterior and interior it. Some parts of the mold would remain stuck to it like plasticine. Also, if it's tubes, he uses plasticine for the mold. But the walls, maybe he decides not to use it. It really vacillates on the size of the part. There are several details to consider, but if you do utilize thin walls, it can possibly become a transparent part in the future. It could even be fragile. Polyurethane is much stronger than all the materials that master models use, but it's sensitive when used thinly. Your model can break when it falls, especially for dolls. Thin parts are likely to crack and it's not ideal for assembly. It should not be transparent and the thickness of the wall ought to be 2 millimeters or above. Now, let me give you a visual demonstration. We can begin with the primer. Here is a standard acrylic universal primer and a rougher one that blurs out the details. You should prime it if there are many significant defects. If your master model is virtually flawless, but if it came from a 3D printer with minor prints, then it is enough to just use this primer. I'm not advocating any products or receiving any payments to tout this. I'm simply sharing my experience and knowledge. This primer is ideal for modelers. It is not necessary to solely use this type of primer. These are just what I've found suitable and appreciated. I learned to utilize them reliably. First, take a part, then prime it. Apply a layer of primer and then proceed with sandpaper. More sandpaper and even more sandpaper. Continue this process until your master model surface is perfect. Take for example my master model of a baby doll. She has already visited the summer house which was actually built around her. However, that's beyond the point. Here we have a master face model and it's perfectly formed. The surface must be flawless and the inside should mirror the outside in perfection. If you intend to produce a beautiful and expensive doll, you need to carefully imitate each and every sophisticated component of the master model parts. Pay close attention to the thickness of the wall. Every aspect of the wall thickness matters. Here you can observe the thickness of the walls. I only have openings here, even in the legs. These spaces have been factored into the design. The final product of your doll hinges on these minute details. These details range from the hip detail to the icebreaker and of course the overall curvature of the hip. The only sections where your parts will be polished are at the summer workshop. This is the territory where the icebreakers congregate and small stitches are most likely to run through. Take heed, in every other aspect, how you send it and how you make it involves how it will eventually be produced. At the moment in the summer workshop, icebreakers have started to assemble here at the bottom. This implies everything results perfectly and comes out exactly as how you fashioned it. Here is my baby doll, my little marvel. Here are the handles, they should be absolutely perfect. The thickness of the wall should be substantially adequate. Now let me show you my larger doll master model. Here, you can see the wall thickness in this master model. In my perspective, the wall thickness is commendable. It's between 5 to 6 millimeters thick here, but this opening is large, so I will patch it up a little. This is because when my doll, let's say, bend it here, it's bulging out a bit here. This particular hole, I don't want this. I'm going to adjust it a bit.
Here's the detail. You can see the plasticine inside. It's attached to the casting workshop in order to remove the mold, then it's drilled back in the workshop. That is, you create the holes you made at the exit. They will be an exact replica. All these external holes, the internal holes, they will be identical to your model. The surface will mimic your design precisely. The final product will exactly replicate your design. It has to be perfect if you're aiming for a higher price point. If you want to create a quality product, you definitely need to create a stunning master model. This step is crucial.